It's summertime on ABC Local Radio.
It's a shocking statistic, but Australia is responsible for over 50% of species extinctions in the last 200 years. So shocking that a group of dedicated conservationists are trying to turn that round. The Australian Wildlife Conservation, or Conservancy, along with Sydney Harbour Federation Trust and the New South Wales Forestry Association, have reintroduced the tiny Eastern Pygmy Possum to North Head near Manly after 70 years of localised extinction. It's part of a larger push by the group to translocate locally extinct animals across the country. And in doing so, they'll help slow the huge rate of species extinction in Australia. Atticus Fleming is the Chief Executive of the Australian Wildlife Conservancy, and he joins me now. Atticus, good morning. Just tell us a little bit about this amazing little possum.
G'day, Simon. It is an amazing little animal. So, as you said in your introduction, this is the first ever translocation of the Eastern Pygmy Possum, listed as threatened in New South Wales. So, a combination of habitat loss, but compounded by things like feral cats and foxes. It's like so many of Australia's mammals, has a unique little story. I mean, it's obviously tiny, sort of 45 odd grams, prehensile tail. It's an animal that doesn't quite hibernate, but goes into a state of torpor at various stages of the year. So all of our Australian animals, most of them are unique, found nowhere else in the world, and many of them have a fascinating story. But the thing that they have in common is that they're part of a tale of woe, if you like, the worst mammal extinction rate in the world.
And what led to, particularly around Manly, that localised extinction?
Look, across the board, as I said, it's been this combination of habitat loss, foxes, cats, changes in fire regimes. So I think what you see in places like Manly and other parts of the range, say for the pygmy possum and many other species, is as habitat gets chopped up and lost and animals get confined to smaller patches, the foxes and the cats and so on really take their toll.
Yeah, I mentioned in the intro there that this is just one example of your translocation programs. What other species are you looking at doing this with?
Well, we actually translocated this week some bilbies from Western New South Wales all the way across to Western Australia. So returning bilbies to southwestern Australia for the first time in several decades. But that's just one of, we've done well over 60 translocations now, over 20 species. So everything from bilbies and pygmy possums through to numbats and little, what used to be called rat kangaroos, bettongs. So a whole range of species. I think it's important for Australians to really understand what a dramatic change has occurred in our mammal fauna. So if you read accounts of early explorers, the Australian bush was once alive, just full of small native mammals. These accounts from early explorers, their horses were tripping over all of the mammals that were in the bush. There were billions of them, and I'm talking about small to medium-sized things, bettongs, the bilbies and the bandicoots and so on, animals like hare wallabies that probably many listeners have never heard of. So that was the bush only 150 years ago. And now much of Australia, particularly much of inland Australia, is essentially a marsupial ghost town. So not only do we have the worst extinction rate in the world, so 30 mammals that have gone forever, but the sheer number of animals in the bush has just plummeted. So we've transformed the continent. And so what Australian Wildlife Conservancy is trying to do is to restore parts of Australia, the parts that we can own and manage, by bringing back some of these animals. Because some, obviously the ones that are extinct completely are gone forever, but there are a whole suite of other animals that have contracted to tiny pockets, either in southwestern Australia or on offshore islands. So for those animals, we can bring them back. We can start the process of pushing back that tide of extinctions. The key is cats and foxes.
Well, look.
And so for a lot of our translocations, we're putting animals back into very large areas where we've removed all the foxes and cats and built big cat-proof fences around them.
It sounds like it's a problem with a solution, so we'll follow it through 2017. Thank you very much to Atticus Fleming, Chief Executive of the Australian Wildlife Conservancy.